danger spots in any college football season. Ranked team against unranked opponent, and we'll see if the upset can shake up the rankings in this one. Welcome to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, home of the Ole Miss Rebels. As we'll see a squad from the Big Ten, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, taking on the 17th ranked team in the land, the Ole Miss Rebels. For EA Sports, I'm Reese Davis, Jesse Palmer, and David Pollack with me. Guys, can't wait to get this started. Notre Dame lining up to kick off and get this one started. On the move from inside his 5. Nice job by the kickoff team. Everybody stayed in their lanes, and they'll stop him at the 16. Use the play fake, now to throw. He'll get rid of it. It's caught. The junior making a clutch play and turning in a big catch. And the Rebels are in the hurry-up.
And after that long completion for the first down, did you see everybody sprinting to the line of scrimmage offensively? They want to go tempo right now.
Give to the running back. And they'll bring him to the ground after a short gain.
Run game is good. Balance is good. Now listen, if the run game isn't good, then you got to pass the football a little bit more. But sometimes you got to keep them honest, take them chunk by chunk.
Didn't get much on first down. It's 2nd and 9. Right back to it. And they're able to shove him to the turf as they stop him for a short gain.
Man, it's really hard to control the running game if you don't control the line of scrimmage. And how about the defensive line doing a great job attacking those guys up front, not open up lanes to run through. Nice job just nullifying that run altogether.
It'll be 3rd and long. Wide receiver comes in motion. Wants to throw. It's Simmons. Well, the quarterback can make a big play when he starts moving around. They make the stop, but what a job on the scramble to get loose and pick up that first down.
And how about the awareness by this guy on 3rd down, scramble play. Everything's breaking down, but he never panics and also knows exactly where he needs to get to pick up that first down. It's 3rd. I can't slide early. I can't run out of bounds. I'm probably going to have to put my body on the line here and take a big hit and risk that to get this first. That's a big-time leadership play by the quarterback.
And how about that play by that giant, that mountain of a man on the defensive front?
Well, they're just trying to run the ball, but that time there was absolutely nowhere for the running back to go, and as a result, that's a tackle for loss.
Lost one on that last one. It's 2nd and 11. Motion from the wideout. Wants to fire on 2nd down. Looking to buy time. Fires downfield. He misses his man. The accuracy just not what it needed to be on that play.
Well, you got to love that if you're on defense, because you were able to affect the quarterback with pressure, and you only rushed 3 guys. Well done.
Now facing a 3rd and long. Motion from the wide receiver. 3rd and long, and he'll try to throw for it. And they couldn't make the connection on the long shot.
You wonder if there's just a little bit of rust with this offense right now coming off the bye week, right? They just haven't been able to get clicking in this game throwing the football. They're going to have to find that mojo and get back into a rhythm here pretty quickly.
Not going to get a chance to field that one, and the punt will bounce out of bounds. From the gun, they'll try the middle. Out across the 20 to the 21-yard line, a 3-yard gain. Guys, let's talk for a minute about Notre Dame. I'm sure you guys saw what a get in recruiting 4-star defensive linemen gave them a verbal commitment just last week.
Yeah, you can't get enough of these guys, man. And they're excited because you got to play so many defensive linemen. This is the guy that's going to come in, be in the rotation early and often.
Great team defense on that run. Everybody doing their job. People winning their one-on-ones, D-linemen staying in their gaps, linebackers and DBs filling. You just can't do it better.
A big 3rd down coming, and hotty-toddy, gosh almighty, this crowd is ready. To the air, it's Carr. Throws for the tight end. Intercepted, and that total goes to 16. They got him down quickly after the pick, but he'd already made the biggest play, and they've got it at the 38.
Man, that's not the attempt you wanted to start the game. First pass of the game, interception. Man, this is where you go over the sidelines. You have a good talk with your coach. You settle down. It's not the end of the world. It's one pass, but that is not the start he had in mind today.
Oh, he's got some space. Just what this offense was looking for. Sets him up at the 26 with the 1st down.
When you run these counter-type plays, you're getting extra offensive linemen pulling at the point of attack, opening up a crease for that running back to gash the defense.
They'll ride the hot hand. What powerful running, just driving the pile forward for everything he could get. He'll be just a few inches short.
And that would be the definition of 1st down success. Putting yourself in a good position. It's 2nd and inches. I can do whatever I want next. I can take a shot down the field. I can run the football and get a new set of downs. Like, nice 1st down execution.
They get him down, but he was driving his way and gets it down to the 7-yard line. The Rebels are threatening on 1st and goal. Use the play fake, now to throw. Hit hard as he released the ball on that 1st down pass, and it never had a chance.
That's a phenomenal job getting after the quarterback and getting a hit on him to affect his accuracy, because if they didn't get the pressure, that was going to be a touchdown. He had a guy wide open in the end zone. That was a golden opportunity, but the defense comes up big.
The run up the middle, trying to find his way to the goal line. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield.
And that's why he is an all-American caliber player. He is just so physical and dominant against the run. He's able to shed blockers, use his athleticism, use his speed, get to the ball carrier and bring him down. Simply one of the best box defenders you're going to find in the entire...
Touchdown, Rebels! They wanted to finish, and that they did on that possession.
Really nice job working the route, getting himself open, and he's able to locate the football, snag it out of the air, and this guy now has 5 receiving touchdowns on the year.
We check in with Kevin Connors. What's going on, Kevin?
Guys, every game in the SEC so vital to a team's season, and this one is no different. Alabama opened up a can, and how many times can you say you went into someone else's house and beat them by double digits? It's what happened today, and the rest of college football should take notice. Always interesting to see good SEC teams collide, and today was no different. The agony and ecstasy of college football, fellas.
Hey, Kevin Connors, keeping an eye on everything all over the country. Sounds like they had a good one there. After the productive 1st down play, it's 2nd and 6. They knock him down after he picks up 5 out to the 34.
And, you know, when we talk about great 3rd down defenses, it really starts with them getting stops on 1st and 2nd down. You've got to get those stops early in the drives to set up 3rd and long, so that's a missed opportunity on that 2nd down by this defense.
He'll have enough to move the chains. It's 1st down at the 38. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Notre Dame ready to go with another 1st down. Here's the handoff. Turning it on. Brought down at the 47-yard line after the 15-yard pickup. Notre Dame lines up quickly. They're going to go right back to him on 1st down.
Right, great little run there. Listen, it wasn't phenomenal. It didn't get a first down, but what does it do? Now it makes second down easier. The play caller looking at his sheet going, all right, I can throw it, I can run it. Still in a great position. Way to stay ahead of the chains.
The Irish come to the line facing second and short. They'll leave it with the lone back. All down, but he has enough to move the chains.
Well, the offense is in a really nice rhythm right now. It seems like no matter what they're dialing up, they're getting positive yards, and it just feels so good as a play caller when you know on first down you can get yards like that turning around and handing it.
Yeah, and on the other side, you're scratching your head going, what the heck can I do here? You got to find something. The defense has got to find a way to create some momentum. Whatever they're doing right now, it's not working. So you got to keep going through that play sheet and maybe find something a little bit different and give this offense something to think about.
They'll run play action. Quarterback feeling that pressure, and he's knocked down at the 42. And they've swapped ends of the field, and we'll get it going in the second. This offense had a little extra time to think about it. Let's see what they have on third down. Looking to throw, it's Carr. Lets it fly. And trying to put points on the board on third down. Now they're staring at fourth down. The Irish send out the punt unit. First punt of the day, and he'd lob to lock them up close to their goal line. And the return man reaches the end of the line, and down he goes. This drive will start from the 19-yard line. On the run, it's Lacey. Tried to move that pile forward. He maybe gets two. He's down at the 21.
And sticking to the run. I tell you what, a lot of teams that are really good are really stubborn, and they continue to run the football even with little success. So this offense is going to continue to focus on running the football. You can tell.
The inside handoff. That is a big win for this defense as they were right there as soon as he got the ball.
And, man, it's nice to have a guy that is just better than your guys. And no matter what play you call, man, how about him getting in the backfield quick, penetrating, using his quickness, and using his strength to get him to the ground? That is a baller.
They've got to come up with a big play on this third and long. Makes the catch. It's Watkins. They'll mark him out of bounds at about the 29-yard line.
QBs, when you see zone coverage, man, can you manipulate defense when you have a good pocket and you've got time to throw. He had a little bit of time to throw. You can move guys with your eyes. That drag comes wide open. Good throw, good catch, first down.
Wants to go up top on first down. Quarterback moving. Finds his big tight end. And a good job of coverage by that defense. Just a short pickup.
That's a great example of the defense there tackling the catch. As soon as the big fella caught the ball, down he went, not picking up the first.
Try to make up for some of that lost ground on second down. Dropping back, it's Simmons. He fires a bullet to the right. And it's incomplete, going for the massive explosive play instead. They're looking at a third down.
Well, this defense was ready for go balls. Against this receiver and his speed, he's one of the fastest in the country. They knew this quarterback was going to try to take the top off the defense. That time they couldn't link up, but if you're on defense, just know they're going to try that play again.
They've got it to the 49-yard line, and they'll move the chains.
How about this offense? They're rolling. They got a couple first downs together. Defense. Next, what's your response? What do you got? You got to make some adjustments here.
And the Rebels are on the move. Takes the handoff, and he's going right. You'll take 4 yards on first down every time, 2nd and 6.
And those body blows really, really matter. Like, I want to be able to hand the ball off to my running back 10, 15 times a game. Make the defense tackle them, wear them out. Sometimes these 3 to 4 yard runs, later in football games, they turn into 5 to 15 to 20-yard games just because of the body blow effect.
The Rebels come to the line on 3rd and short, trying to convert here. They turn to the passing game on 3rd and short. Catch in the middle. It's Wilson. Now they're really starting to threaten as they pick up the first down at the 34-yard line. And on that 3rd and short, I don't think he was unhappy to see that zone.
Nope, it's a great job by the offense. Hey, see where the holes in the zone are? Sit down. You only need a little bit of yards on this 3rd down. Get the conversion. Move the sticks.
He's looking deep. And incomplete on the deep ball.
I don't know about the decision that time by the quarterback. He may have been expecting man coverage, but that time the defense was in zone, and they did a really nice job closing the window. The intended target was not open, and that's why that one fell incomplete.
Plenty of work to do here on 2nd and long. They'll move the wide receiver. Quick handoff. And he never had a chance. Just stopped cold as soon as he got it.
And you hear about run blitzes. This is exactly what a run blitz is. When you know the ball's coming up the middle, you want to bring those linebackers, get them closer to the line of scrimmage, and fire. Right when the ball snapped, he's coming downhill, doing a good job creating the loss. That linebacker really knew what was going on.
Looks as if they didn't get it off in time. It'll be a delay of game. That is a completely avoidable penalty. The quarterback just went into brain lock and lost track of the play clock. They've methodically worked the ball down the field. 11th play of the drive coming up, but this one 3rd and long. He'll take the deep shot. Hits him in stride inside the 10. Almost took it all the way, but a huge gain, and he has him set up 1st and goal.
This guy already has a touchdown. He almost had a second right there. You saw how good he is after he has the ball in his hands. Great job by the quarterback. A, finding him, B, getting it to him quickly, and then his speed and his God-given ability.
Into the end zone he goes. Touchdown, Ole Miss. That touchdown gives his team a pretty significant lead at this point.
And that's what you want. You want to start fast. You want everything to come out, start clicking, make some plays. It doesn't always work that way, but when you do, man, the energy, the crowd, everybody's into it. Now the other team better respond.
On the run from inside his own 5. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. His drive opens up at the 23-yard line. The give to the back. Just enough there to get it to the 25, a pickup of 2.
That's a really good job by the defense, wrapping them up, getting them on the ground. Take away that run game. Make them one-dimensional, put them in passing situations. Really good job by the defense.
Surges across the 30, out to the 32, a 6-yard run.
I love to see this on offense. Early in drives, getting that kind of yardage keeps you ahead of the chains.
The Land Sharks circling. Crowd getting this defense whipped up on 3rd down. Dropping back, it's Carr. Got him downfield. Really nice job there to pick up the first down and get it to their own 41. Whistle blows, we are at the 2-minute timeout, and man, oh man, could these guys use a score to cut into this lead. Notre Dame coming to the line with another first down. Wants to throw on first down. And he was hit just as he was releasing the pass, and it falls to the ground incomplete.
I think a big reason this offense is struggling right now and why they're trailing on the scoreboard is they have not been able to protect this guy, and it's affected him. He has not looked very accurate. Moving forward, the pass pro has got to be better to help this guy out.
Behind the chains now on 2nd and long. The sure hands, it's Brock. There he goes. Big play, takes him into plus territory. He's out of bounds at the 47.
Yeah, and some quarterbacks just read your mail. And Palmer, it looked like he read blitz all the way and knew his answer.
Yeah, Dave, you could tell this guy spent a lot of time studying.
He's got it inside the 15. And he just kept running, and he ran away from the crowd, and he'll take it in. Touchdown, Irish!
And I tell you what, that passing touchdown, man, that should spark this whole team. Like, the comeback is more than on now. Like, they got the touchdown. They cut into the lead. You want to get a stop and go into the half, get all the juices, all the excitement, and be like, listen, the passing game's rolling. We got this. The comeback's in full effect.
And for a quick update, let's go to Kevin Connors in the studio.
Fellas, rivalry game in the SEC. Of course, that's almost redundant in that league. But check this out. Wake Forest packed a wallop today, and in many ways felt like it packed Deke's Nation with them too. This was supposed to be a road test, and instead it felt like a walk through the park in Winston-Salem. Each week in the SEC, the tests are just so tough, and we found that out today again, guys, with another good team taking one on the chin.
Kevin, thanks a lot for that one. Sounds as if they had a good one there. On the move, it's Lacey. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. Boy, there wasn't much room to wiggle for that running back there.
None at all. Great job by the defense getting in the backfield quickly, closing up all the holes, nowhere to run.
Got stuffed on first down. It's 2nd and 10. Back to throw. It's Simmons. Oh, they're after him. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face 3rd down.
This offensive line's got to do a better job. I mean, he doesn't even have time to go through his progressions. You got to give your QB some time. You got to make him feel comfortable. They didn't. They got in there quick, fast, and in a hurry.
It'll be 3rd and long. From the gun, wants to pass. And this is going to be incomplete on 3rd down.
Well, the defense finally has figured it out. That was critical for their confidence because they had been scored on earlier. They had given up a ton of yards. I think they understood the gravity of the situation. 3rd down, that was critical for them to get off the field, build momentum, build some confidence. Nice job that time by the defense.
So first play of the drive coming here from their own 49. Leaves it with the running back. Able to scrounge 3 yards out of that one somehow. It's 2nd and 7.
The run game just has not been working for this offense all game long. We saw it on that last play as well. Just not getting enough push up front on the offensive line. They haven't been physical enough.
Working that left side now. They make the stop at the 37, but not before he's got 10 yards and the first down. Bunch formation for these receivers. To the air on first down. Here's a heat. Just too much of a rush, and down goes the quarterback just behind the midfield stripe at the 49.
And the defense there goes zone coverage, maybe confused the quarterback a little bit, forced him to hold on to the football, and that allowed the pass rush to get home.
Notre Dame has made this second down play much more difficult after going backwards. To the air, it's Carr. Here's the pressure. And he's all bottled up, and now it's worse. The ball's loose.
Woo, deep breath, right, man? You fumble that thing, you cough it up, you're like, oh, I really appreciate you, brother. I can't tell you how much I thank you because the coaches would have been all over me, but big-time break for the offense.
On 3rd and forever, let's test his arm strength. He'll loft one deep down the left side. Pass is incomplete, and that's going to do it for the first half. That's going to wrap up the first half here, and now we join Kevin with the halftime update. And the Rebels will kick it away to start the second half. And no chance at a return here. They'll start this drive at their own 25. The drive starts from their own 25-yard line. They'll open the second half on the ground. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that.
And it's been a surprise today for this offense. Like, coming into the game, we all talked about it. We thought they'd be able to run against this defense that's been run on a lot, and this offense just can't get the running game going. Be interested to see what they do to try to change it up, but somehow, some way, they need that physical ground game.
Pressure coming. Grabbed behind the line, it's Williams. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage.
They're trying to throw the screen out to the receiver. The defense, though, having none of that. They are just too physical. They're too fast. They force a negative play.
A big third down coming, and hotty-toddy, gosh almighty, this crowd is ready. Scanning the field, it's Carr. He wants to go deep. Another interception. That's number 17 on the year. Got room on the return. And they capitalize not only on the pick, but the great return to give the offense tremendous field position.
And when you think about free safeties, you think about hitters, right? You think about guys that spin down the box. You don't think about coverage as much as you do with corners. But a nice job by staying with this man. Man-to-man coverage isn't always easy proposition, but it's a good job staying with this guy, making the INT.
Can't find his man as he took a shot trying to deliver that football, and it'll be second down. Couldn't make the connection last time. Let's see if they throw it again. To the ground with the back. He breaks a tackle. Gets it past the marker. He stopped at the 32, picks up 10 on the play and gets the first down.
I'll tell you what, a few more runs like that, and defensively you start thinking more guys in the box, more big guys. I better stop this guy because he's unbelievable. Just a great job breaking off the big run, and the OC is going to give him the ball some more.
Didn't get much on first down. It's 2nd and 9. They'll give it to the back. And this one will be stopped for no gain. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Third and long from the 30-yard line in this defense, hoping to knock them out of field goal range. Back to throw, it's Simmons. Fires left. It's picked off, and they ruin the drive with a turnover. And he's wrapped up after a solid return on the pick.
And this safety is a ball hawk. He's a playmaker. Not only have we seen him get involved in the running game and make tackles playing downfield, but he plays the center field position as well as anybody in college football, and you saw it right there.
Looking downfield on first down. It's complete to the left. He stopped just a chain link or two away from the first down and sets them up beautifully here. The Irish might opt to take a shot here on 2nd and inches. Out of the gun, they'll run it inside. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield.
And
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. We talked about this before the game. One of the big matchups. Run the football against a defense that's been susceptible against the run throughout the season. But this offense just can't find a way to get it going. And I'm surprised, but now what's your counterpunch? How are you going to get the ground game going? Because so far, not a lot of success.
That's a great job executing up front by the defense. They looked like they were ready for that play, and that was a bit of a more unconventional look from the offense on third down, but the defense was there to make a big stop.
They booted away. Makes a nice grab at the 25. Smashes ahead. First play of the drive comes from the 38. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. The Rebels want to crank the tempo. The give to the back. That is a big win for this defense as they were right there as soon as he got the ball. It's amazing how a play by a defensive end in the backfield can really swing the momentum not only of a series but of a game sometimes.
All you're trying to do is create negative plays, to get them behind the sticks a little bit, to get those sacks, to get those tackles for losses. You see so much stunting in college football up front with the defensive line because you know once you get one of those plays, you got the offense right where you want.
Back to throw, it's Simmons. That pass not close as he got drilled trying to deliver it, and it'll bring up fourth down. And the Rebels will bring the punt team onto the field. And nobody able to field that punt as it rolls out of bounds. They'll get this drive started from their own 26. They'll start this drive going to the air. That's caught. It's Williams. Out to the 36-yard line after gaining 10 on that one. The Irish have always been built on the run, but timely completions are important, like the great Tom Clements back in the day or John Hewitt.
Got to be clutch, right? Got to be balanced and got to find those moments where you can thrive. It's always a system, it seems like, at Notre Dame where it's been built.
Wide open on the right. Slips one guy, now he's loose. They bring him down, but he's got a first and goal from the 10.
After giving up that big shot defensively, how confident are you calling that coverage again? You're now on your own end of the field, and now your backs are against the wall.
Looking to throw on first down. Trying to set up the screen. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Defense rose up deep in its own end on that last play. Now a second and long coming. Looking to fire. Unleashes to the end zone. Touchdown Notre Dame! The finisher, the exclamation point on that drive. Setting up for the extra point and the tie. And the extra point was made without incident, and we're tied up here in the third. They're getting set to kick it away, and that last score took a little oomph out of this crowd. The returner will field it and try to do some business. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. First snap of this drive will come from their own 17. Might be calling a hot route. They'll toss it to the outside on the left. Breaks into the open. Spin, still running. Makes the stop at the 33, but it's a 15-yard gain. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. With the first down, they'll put it in play from the 33. They'll go to the ground. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. Man, what a spectacular play by that defensive end to come up with the tackle there.
And you see those guys get off the football so fast. Most of these guys are 250 to 275 pounds, but they get off the ball fast, low. And the offensive linemen, they have no chance to stop those guys as quick and as fast as they are.
Under fire. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face third down.
And finally, the defense is able to get some pressure on this quarterback. They had been trying all game long, different ways to affect him. Weren't able to get there. But on that play, because of the pressure, it affected his accuracy, and that's why the ball falls incomplete.
Going deep. And that one's incomplete. They weren't just trying to move the chains. They were trying to move the scoreboard. Instead, it's fourth down. The Rebels decide to punt it away. They'll look to pin him deep. Waves the arm for the fair catch, and the catch is made close to the 30-yard line. They'll christen this drive from the 28-yard line. Send the tight end in motion. Looking to throw, it's Carr. Flips it out to the back. Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender.
And listen, I know that wasn't a huge gain. It was positive, but I like doing more of that in today's college football. I'm just going to try to give my playmakers a chance to do damage in space away from all the big boys inside.
Backed up now. Here's second and long. From the shotgun, they'll run it. Not a lot of daylight. He gets one to the 32.
And that run really didn't go anywhere. A lot of times we don't focus on it enough. How important those five guys are up front. To get on those defensive linemen, to try to move them out of the way, to get a run game going, it squarely falls on the shoulder of those five offensive linemen.
Fires to the wideout. And they can't make the play on third down. Notre Dame lining up to punt it away. Makes the tackle, really strong, disciplined job, and now we have one period to play. Can't wait to see how this fourth quarter is going to go and see who can come out on top in this barn burner. They'll go back to work with a first down in the final period. They're going to throw it to start the drive. Snagged in the middle. It's Alexander. They'll get the first down. It's spotted on the 49.
Well, the defense did a nice job taking everything away down the field, but once the drag route was caught, they just couldn't rally to the ball carrier in time to make a tackle, and as a result, new set of downs.
Took just one play, and they got it almost to midfield. First down from the 49. Grabbed over the middle. It's Watkins. Make the stop at the 40, but it's a 10-yard gain and a fresh set of downs.
And I think this receiver's forte is his route running. He's a guy that can line up all over the field, but it's not just catching post routes and goes. This guy can run shallows, he can run slants, he can run the option routes and find soft spots in the defense. This guy really has all the routes in his toolbox.
You want to make play calling easy for an offensive coordinator? Run the ball like that every play. I mean, when you can run that on first down and set up a short yardage on second down, it makes play calling easy. Every single call on that sheet is available here on second down.
Some early movement along the offensive line, and they'll walk it back. So the decision has been made, and the coach will take the penalty. Now on second down. Looking for a man. It's Simmons. Can't make the connection. The pressure there caused the missed timing.
This is going to be a key that we look at this entire game. How can this defense find ways to affect this quarterback and get pressure on him? Because they felt coming into the game, if they could do that, they could affect him and influence this passing game.
They love to make this kick easier by picking up a few on third down. It's 56 yards out from here. He fires one deep over the middle. Oh, and it's picked off. This could be huge in a tie game. The defense was looking for a huge play in this tie game, and they have just given their team a great opportunity.
I think, Reese, at this point of the game, tied late, it's going to come down to who can make the most plays. The defense comes up with a massive play, creating that turnover. Outstanding job by the D. All 11 guys being on the same page, now putting their offense in great position.
Plenty of distance between them and the sticks here on second down. Rush is on him. Missed his receiver there. It's incomplete.
There's a lot of QBs that when they get hit, when they get hurried, when they get pressured, they become very average. Really nice job by the defense. Pressure the quarterback.
The Land Sharks circling. Crowd getting this defense whipped up on third down. From the gun, wants to pass. Gonna let it fly. And they can't hook up on the big play, and that brings up a fourth down.
Third and long situations are really hard to convert. The defense knows it's going to be passed. The pass rushers are getting upfield. You're under pressure. You don't have timing. And as a result now, fourth down.
He'll field the punt and look for room. Return's going to get it up around midfield. He'll be down at the 49-yard line. So first play of the drive coming here from their own 49. To throw, it's Simmons. Got it on the outside, it's Wilson. And he goes down after making the grab. Picked up a few, but he's still short of the first down marker. Receivers work tirelessly, tapping that toe along the sideline, and it just looks so natural for him.
Yeah, it can't just be pat and go all the time, right? Reese just jogging down the field, ball hits you right in stride. You got to be able to make awkward body catches and do it getting your feet in bounds. That was sweet.
Yeah, and it's so nice. Don't overthink it, right? Just hand it off, get the first down, new set of downs, let's go.
Maybe this will breathe a little life into this offense, which has been flatlined in the second half. Here's 1st and 10. Makes the catch. Open space at the 25. Touchdown, Rebels! They've got the lead here in the fourth. When that receiver got free, it was all over.
And it's so nice to have a receiver like this as a quarterback because you pad my stats. I like those long touchdown passes where I just threw it really short and he did the rest of the work.
And let's check in with Kevin Connors in the studio. Kevin?
Dynamite matchup this week in CUSA, fellas. Let's show you what's going down. Kennesaw State has the lead right now, but this crowd is restless. They just haven't been able to separate themselves yet today. They're up by 8 over Western Kentucky. Implications galore inside CUSA, and we'll circle back should anything big happen.
Oh, and how about that? I know Kevin and those guys will be keeping an eye on it for us. First play of this drive comes from the 14-yard line. They'll start this drive going to the air. He's got his man. Finds enough room to get it to the 21 before going out of bounds.
He's been a matchup problem all season long. Defenses just don't know how to solve the puzzle. And with that last catch, over 500 yards receiving now on the year for him.
Back to pass, it's Carr. lot of defenders around on that screen. Building momentum, picking up a chunk of yardage, moving the chains out to the 34.
Yeah, and you've seen these curl routes. This is a timing route, understanding the ball's got to come out of my hand right when he hits the top of that curl. Nice job by the QB finding him. Nice catch.
Wide receiver going in motion. Looking to throw on first down. That's caught. It's Washington. And he's to the 48-yard line. That'll be good enough for a first down.
Well, it's a nice job by the tight end there. He's patient. He fights his way through all the traffic in the middle of the field, running that drag route, making it an easy completion for the quarterback.
Most important part of a clutch drive. Piece together some first downs. Get in position. And here they are on 1st and 10. Wants to go up top on first down. It's complete. He's loose. And he ran away from the defense to take it in. Touchdown, Fighting Irish. This is like a baseball pitcher that can't miss. He is just pounding the strike zone.
Yeah, it just gets in the zone, right? When you can't miss, you've seen quarterbacks get like that no matter what they do. They're on fire. They're hitting the receivers. And listen, that's also on the defense. The defense has to do a better job making him feel uncomfortable, changing what they're doing in coverage so he's a little bit confused. You can't just let him pick you apart.
And he takes this from inside the 5. Nice job by the kickoff team. Everybody stayed in their lanes, and they'll stop him at the 16. We'll see what they can do on this drive that starts at the 16-yard line. Power football with the run. And he never had a chance. Just stopped cold as soon as he got it.
You see all this movement in football now, all the stemming, the defensive line, they're sliding right before the snap, creating confusion for the offensive line. Then they're moving back and stunting. Really good job by the defense. Continue to move, continue to stunt, continue to get in the backfield and make this life hard on this running back.
Didn't get much done on that first play of the drive. It's 2nd and 11. Looking to pass. It's Simmons. Throws to the wideout. And it's intercepted. Oh, what a big play in a tie game. Not able to get loose on the return, but what a play to put his team in business at the 33. Here come the Irish back on offense. How big is this drive? Scored a touchdown the last time they had it. Defense gets a stop, and now it's up to them in a tie game.
All right, so if you're the offensive coordinator here, let's dial it in. Who are your best matchups and best playmakers to take advantage of this golden opportunity?
Yeah, and I'm interested to see this defense, too. Like, the momentum is clearly not in your favor. How do you get it back? How do you make a big play? Do you be more aggressive here to try to get the football back to your offense?
Notre Dame right back to the line. Wants to throw on first down. And this is going to be intercepted. A big play in a tie game. He can be dangerous with the ball in his hands, but no room to return that pick, and they'll go on offense from the 21. They come to the line for the first play of the drive, snapping it from the 21. Leaves it with the back. And they didn't get it forward an inch. Defense wins the battle up front.
I mean, you just can't teach and coach big D tackles to be that quick. I mean, he shot right out of his stance, beat the offensive lineman, and he was in the backfield before the O-line even knew it.
They got nothing on the last play. It's 2nd and 10. Wants to go up top. Makes the grab. It's Watkins. He is not afraid to use that stiff arm as a weapon as he bangs his way to the 28. And the Rebels come to the line on 3rd down, trying to keep this drive alive. Back to pass. It's Simmons. Caught over the middle. It's Wilson. And he's tackled, but there's also a flag on the field. Let's see what the call is. A solid gain on that one, and it goes for naught as the penalty will back them up. This defense has kept them backed up. Now one more stop, and they can get off the field on 3rd and long. Fires to the middle. And this will be picked off. A costly turnover in a tie game. The sudden change on the turnover, and man, he was looking for running room. Couldn't find that, but they'll have it at the 22. Couldn't ask for better starting field position for this offense. Touch pass on the run. Oh, he's got some room, headed to the goal line. Touchdown, Irish. They move on top here in the 4th.
What a great game, tied late in the ballgame. Who's going to make the big play? They come up with it late, take the lead. Nice execution. It's hard to execute in these moments. People get tight. The score's tied late in the game. I don't want to mess up, but this offense doesn't worry about messing up. They put the ball in the end zone and take the lead.
He'll start the return inside his 5. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. They'll get this drive going from the 17. To the air, it's Simmons. Finds his man, it's Watkins. Stopped after a good pickup, and he'll be just a tad short of the 1st down.
Well, the defense playing zone coverage there. They're taking away all of the QB's primary options down the field, so he has to check it down to the drag running underneath.
Here's a throw downfield late. And his 5th interception of the game, a miracle they haven't pulled him yet. And a big return after the INT sets up the offense for this possession.
And if you're the quarterback, you might want to stop throwing that guy's way. I mean, you knew coming into this game, David, he's one of the best corners in the entire country. He's already been picked off twice now. He is literally living in this quarterback's head rent-free.
And so nice to have a guy like this that can cut off half the field, because now you can put resources elsewhere. He's proven if you try me, bad things are going to happen.
Well, they're trying to run the football there, just nowhere to go. They got dominated up front at the point of attack.
Ordinarily on 2nd and 10, you might look past, but here you just want to keep that clock moving. He'll run it again. Stopped at the 13-yard line as the drive continues. How bold will they be on 3rd down after that last run? Drop play, quarterback keeps it. He's not going to get there, and this defense really needed a stop like that.
And you want to sneak those draws in there when the defensive line gets over-aggressive and runs upfield. Jesse, they didn't do it on that play.
No, nice job staying in their gaps. Offense was in shotgun. The offensive line was pass setting. They were trying to fool them, but they couldn't get it done.
Never a doubt. And they'll push that lead out a little further.
That's a big drive for this offense in the 4th quarter. Now to take a 2-possession lead, you got the other offense where you want them. Now you get to rush the passer, make them pass a little bit more, and don't give up those big plays. You're in a really good spot now.
Oh, look at Mr. Hands taking the squibber inside the 30. Nice return there, and he'll be dragged down at the 34. 1st and 10. This drive will get underway from just inside the 35 at their own 34. Looking for a man. It's Simmons. Unloads to the wideout. A strike downfield. A big play gets it into plus territory, and they'll mark him out of bounds at the 44.
Hey, you know, the defense here in this situation with a huge lead, they've got to anticipate that this offense is going to be trying to throw the ball to the sideline, so they've got to work different coverages to try to force the quarterback to go over the middle of the field with the football.
Now he'll throw back into the middle. A sensational grab down the field there as they try to at least put a positive spin on the end of this game.
That's what's so scary about this offense. They've got guys in the perimeter that can change the game in one single play, and you saw it right there. Too much speed on the perimeter to create that explosive play.
He's brought down at the 7-yard line, and they are threatening to take it in. Timeout is called with just 2 seconds left to go. After this, it'll be a wrap. Off play action. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Ole Miss. Fit it in the window for the score.
And that sure feels like too little, too late. This offense, they needed to score and execute faster, but there's not enough time to me, man. This feels like this one's over.
Might not mean much to the game, but the last thing he wants is a missed one on his stat sheet. And the kick is good, but they'll still lose this one by 3. Guys, this is a story we see every single year in college football. Ranked teams losing to unranked opponents. Whatever the reasons, it adds to the flavor of the season.
It's so good because we all love the upsets, and then if you're the team that got that ranked win, Jesse, you start to build your resume, start to build some momentum. So this squad got a good win today.
They sure did. They put the rest of college football on alert with that huge win. And for the team losing, they've now got to be able to turn the page. They got to go back, do some soul searching, because they're a much better team than what they showed today.
Thanks so much for spending some time with us. For David Pollack and Jesse Palmer, I'm Reese Davis, and this has been another presentation of EA Sports College Football.